Hi there, Dia. I'm very happy to see that you've sent us this essay for your IELTS preparation. Wonderful. Let's take a look at it. The topic is international marketing. So let's see what you had to say. Okay. Globalization is an important aspect that led to various aspects of human life, like connectivity between nations and trade. Careful here. The sentence is fine, but look, you've got aspect and aspect in the same sentence. This is something you want to avoid. Your introduction is the examiner's first impression of your writing, and so you really want this to be accurate and show that you've got some novel vocabulary. Okay, so you don't want to repeat a word like this in the same sentence. Some say that it negatively affects the third world countries, while others say that it is beneficial in various ways. Okay. This essay will discuss both ideas and justify my opinion that international marketing is beneficial in today's world. Okay, so that's fine. Going back to this first sentence, however, it's not entirely clear what the topic is here. So you said globalization, connectivity between nations, and trade. These are not really faithful kind of rephrasing of international marketing. Okay, so I would have liked you to kind of to have been more faithful to the task and to some of the vocabulary here. So what do I mean? I mean that when you talk about globalization and when you talk about trade, it's not automatically understood that you're talking about international marketing. So despite what I said earlier about the word aspect, here it's okay if you actually use the term international marketing. I actually would have preferred it here. Okay, since it's central to the task, it's the kind of thing that you couldn't really avoid using. You kind of have to use it. Okay. So you did state your opinion, and that was really important because it asks you to do that, and so that's very good. That's fine. Why don't we move on? Trading between countries improved over the course of years. These improvements are attributed to the exploitation of resources from poorer countries. I don't know why you have a comma here. These are actually two separate sentences. If you wanted to put them in one sentence, believing that they're linked to each other, then a better punctuation here would have been a semicolon. And it's always very nice when examiners see the appropriate use of semicolons. That's what you needed here. Or else you could have just made it two separate sentences. Okay? The raw materials for making most products, get rid of the, most products are available at cheaper rates and the workers are underpaid. Thus, international marketing caused troubles for developing countries. All right, now what we've got here is a paragraph that's underdeveloped, but not just that, it's actually not entirely on topic. Yes, you're talking about international activity and you're talking about trade, but that's not really what this has asked you to talk about. This has asked you to talk about specifically international marketing and why some people think that it's invasive and intrusive. Here, you're talking about something somewhat different. You're talking about trade. And so that's not what they've asked you to talk about. Is trade related to marketing? Yes, but they're not the same thing. Okay? So maybe marketing helps trade, but you can't use them as if they're synonyms. Okay? Let's see. And then you start talking about, let's see, yeah, it's really rather off topic. You needed to talk about international marketing. And I think that this is a term that a lot of students have a hard time with. It's a good idea when you write an essay like this, especially when you're preparing, to maybe do some background research about what international marketing is, to make sure that you really understood the task. This is central to doing well in task achievement. So when you are preparing, if you have any sort of uncertainty about what the task is asking you to talk about, then definitely do a little research so you can understand what you're supposed to be discussing here. Okay, so clearly this paragraph was somewhat off topic. You were talking about trade, you were talking about the exploitation of resources, you were talking about cheap labor. And so all of this is not really connected to what we're supposed to be talking about. All right, let's move on. As the marketing between countries improved, it became easier to move between countries and move goods. When one country lacks a particular resource, another country could help it by sharing their resource. Hence, it is essential for the financial development. Okay, again, what you're doing is you're making these little paragraphs, but they're not really properly structured paragraphs. They're just kind of like, this is like 3 sentences. And okay, yes, they're linked to each other, but this isn't really a properly formed paragraph. Okay. Now, again, you're talking about trade. You use the word marketing, but what you're actually referring to is trade. You're talking about the movement of goods and travel, and you're talking about lacking resources. So this is not what we're supposed to be talking about again in terms of international marketing. So I see here that you're talking about the negatives of trade, you're talking about the positives of trade, and now we've got a paragraph about your opinion. Let's see what you said. In my opinion, globalization has benefited the world drastically. Although the strategies used to promote trading of goods in developing countries of the world may seem invasive, the richer countries could set up their firms and factories considering the development of the host country by considering the ethics to be followed. Okay, here you got considering and considering. Well, the grammar here is very nice. You actually had some vocabulary I liked as well. But again, I mean, you're talking about trade, just trade, but this is supposed to be about international marketing. Let's take a look at your conclusion. In conclusion, globalization has harmfully impacted the poorer countries of the world, where institutions from developed countries exploit their resources, whereas it has positively affected the world by compensating for each country's, you need an S here, deficiencies. I favor the presence of globalization as its pros outweigh its cons, and the cons can be solved. Okay, so I think it's pretty clear that one of the problems of this essay was the fact that it didn't really deal with international marketing. Okay, so again, I encourage you to do a little research about international marketing to see what is meant by this term. You decided to use a 5-paragraph structure. We typically recommend using 4 paragraphs, okay, where you've got an introduction, you've got a conclusion, and then you've got 2 paragraphs, one for each side of the argument. And in the second paragraph, in the second body paragraph that is, this is where you usually have your stronger arguments, the ones that you actually support. Okay, so I would not have had this paragraph here. When you're writing in IELTS, it's really important to develop your body paragraphs well. What I noticed here is that your introduction and your conclusion were as long or even longer than your body paragraphs. You don't really want to do this because you're spending a lot of time on 2 paragraphs that have very, very specific purposes to fulfill, but they're not going to help you really to get that topic development that will help you get a higher score in task achievement. So a better idea is to really break this down to the bare bones, to just what you need to rephrase the topic and to give your position, and then to move on so that you have more time to devote to your body paragraphs. Okay. So what I'm seeing here basically is that you've got some nice grammar, you've got some nice vocabulary, so you've got some of the key things that you need in order to do well. There were some inaccuracies, but that's something I think that you could certainly overcome with some practice. But I do think that the problems that I saw in terms of task achievement and coherence and cohesion are things that we most certainly could help you with if you decide to sign up to the online course. We cover these areas in great detail. There's a wealth of information in the course. And of course, with the course, you get the essay corrections with us. And so we really go in great detail, as we are today, about your essay and how you can improve it. Okay? So I really hope that you'll decide to take a look at the course. I think you'll find it immensely helpful. And I want to wish you lots of luck, whatever you decide to do.